Welcome to Gut Punch, the podcast that explores life-changing moments. Hosted by Kathryn Lancioni, a seasoned educator with personal insights into resilience. Kathryn shares how life can change in an instant, shaping our path forward. Each episode features inspiring guests who face their own gut punch moments. Guests share their journeys through loss, upheaval, and triumph. What to expect: honest conversations, lessons in resilience, inspiration for growth. Join Kathryn as she highlights courage and perseverance in every story. Gut Punch is a reminder that there is always a path forward. Be part of the conversation. Register now to join Kathryn for today's journey.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gut Punch. My name is Kathryn Lancioni, and I'll be your host for today. This afternoon, we are joined by Ashli Pollard, who's like entrepreneur, marketing, podcasting, all things female business guru. And Ashli, thank you for joining us. And before we get started with the conversation, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a serial entrepreneur by every nature of the word. I run multiple businesses, all in which serve women in some capacity. You know, we have a membership called The Doers, where we bring together female solopreneurs and service providers and give them everything they need to run their business, to Dial Zero, where we do marketing, or Cocky, where we invest, and plethora of other businesses as well. I stay busy by, staying in servitude, in essence, to women and employing women. And it's a lot of fun. I've definitely found my passion in that space.
You found your passion in your niche, which is like the best possible combination is to discover both.
Absolutely.
So you and I met, I believe it was at South by, when we were both down there speaking with No Pressure Network, and Maggie Rose, who is also going to be a guest in this series about just life. And we've both, had our series of gut punches. And when you sort of shared with me what you'd gone through after I shared the craziness that I've gone through, it all just kind of made sense. So again, thanks for being here. So why don't you take us through kind of what your gut punch was to start our conversation today?
Yeah. We bonded so well at South by at that lovely dinner where we got to meet for the first time, and we were seated near each other, and you shared about your story, which was so inspiring. And I had shared I had a similar but different story where in May of 2017, I was in an Uber and seated behind the driver. Phone was on 1%. I was going to a wedding where I knew absolutely nobody but one person. And so I said to the driver, is there any way that you could charge my phone before we get to the venue? Because, I need a phone.
Of course, right.
And he said, sure, I can charge the phone, but the cord isn't very long. You should come sit next to me. And most women don't do that, or maybe it's not a women's thing, but there's a safety concern, I guess, sometimes in going up and
awkward.
It's awkward. Yeah. But it's also is my space being invaded? Is your space being invaded? Yeah. And so for some reason, and keep in mind, it's important that I was seated behind him, right? And so for some reason, I said yes. I was like, I'm going to go up and sit next to him and charge my phone. We pull up to a stop sign. I get out of the back of the car. I walk around, I get in the front seat. All of this is in seconds. We go through the stop sign and we get hit full speed ahead where I was seated just seconds prior, hit something on the other side of the car. The back of the car scrunches together. There's no way I would have made it out. No way.
Crazy.
It's in the middle of the day. We were hit by a drunk driver. They were supposed to stop at a stop sign that they didn't, things like that. And I was really unwell from it for quite some time. I had a really bad not migraine. Oh my gosh, imagine if I only had a migraine. I would love that. No, I got a really bad concussion. My hand stopped working. Speaking was challenging. All of that kind of hit the next day, though. That whole day, I think that I was fine because I was kind of in adrenaline shock.
Yeah.
And then I was concussed, and I went to a neurologist, and they noticed that I had some swelling in my brain. They were going to take me in to have same-day brain surgery, and ran a few other additional tests and realized that it was actually easy to maintain and that there wasn't actually the problem that they thought. It just kind of changed my outlook on things, right? I feel like I got a second chance. I'm in an alternate universe, did I not make it through that?
It's like life 2.0 is what some people have said. Yeah.
Exactly how it feels. Yep. That was my gut punch moment for sure.
Well, how did that, as we started off talking, you have multiple businesses, you've been involved in so many amazing things. How did your gut punch change you, influence you, shape you, whatever word you want to use?
Well, I mean, I think I'm like a quintessential hustler. Like, I think if people don't know anything about my story, they're like, she's addicted to work. She's a workaholic and da 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 da, all these things. And I think what it is that I had such a big corporate career at the time. I had spent over 10 years in corporate in the fashion industry in New York City, working for places like Prada, Gucci, Rebecca Minkoff. I helped Kendall and Kylie Jenner start their first venture. I, was a pretty respected sales lead, let's say,
Right.
manager, department head. And around the time that this happened, I had to take a step back. I revisited what I really wanted to do. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I had this side hustle at the time called Room for All, which was like a women's empowerment company, right? There's
Okay.
room for all of us. And I didn't know exactly how to grow it. And I knew that I wanted to do something for women. And that was my passion. That was like the thing where I was like, if I have a second chance, this is what I want to be focusing my time on. This is how I want to be spending my time. And then COVID hit, and I knew the business that I wanted to build, but I was just so busy in consulting and in corporate work that there was no way that I could have a side hustle outside of it anymore. And so COVID really gave me the space to say, I was let go. I was given a severance, which gave me a little bit of runway. And I said, I have this amount of time to make this profitable enough that I can focus on it full time. And that was my goal. And I hit my first 6 figures in the first 6 months of running my first business ever, which is the Doers, my membership. And that was a big win for me because I realized, okay, I have a way forward now. And I do work more than the average Joe, that's for sure. But I do feel like my motivation doesn't come from accolades, and it doesn't come from earning, approval, and it doesn't come from proving something to someone. I feel like I have so much spaciousness and so much fun in it
Yeah.
that
Yes.
it's very much like this second chance is all about like connection and impact.
Well, yes. And, I don't know who first said this, but, someone has said many, many times, we've all adopted it. If it's your passion and it's your job, it doesn't feel like work, right? It just
That's
a lot of
exactly it.
fun. Yeah. And I think, when you get that second chance at life, it also helps you put into perspective the things that really matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, and I think you and I talked about this at the dinner, it's just like there's so many little things that really are quite meaningless that take up and occupy too much mental space. But yet, until you've gone through the gut punch, until you've gotten that second chance at life, hopefully, you let those little things irritate you,
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
for you, having the second chance, having the 5 companies, doing all that you do, how do you get through the everyday? How do you not let the little things get to you? And how do you focus on the big picture? How do you manage yourself in that sense?
Honestly, it's so much gratitude. I was a completely different person before the accident than I am after. And
Okay, so
granted,
I want to ask you, what were you like before,
right.
and how are you different?
Let's say like very aggressively like pursuing a career
Yep.
and like nothing will stand in my way and like very like dominating and maybe abrasive, maybe sharp,
Okay.
maybe never like mean. Like I'm not gonna like, stab someone in the back to get further in my career. It's
Right.
nothing like that. It's just like the honestly, it was probably more internal than everything, like a lot of blaming myself and a lot of like, I'm never gonna be able to do this and what's wrong with me. And like like it just kind of stopped afterwards because like it was things like your hand's not working when everything else is functioning properly. It's like things like that where it's like I can't use the remote or like I can't open the door or like you having a headache just sitting up in your bed or these things where they're like a quote unquote tiny inconvenience or maybe even a larger inconvenience. I woke up just fine today. We should be so grateful that we're stuck in traffic because of an accident. And we should be so grateful that we have an argument with a family member. I think about that when I argue with my mom sometimes, or like when she drives me nuts, is like one of my closest friends doesn't have her mom. Right. And so like, I feel like what I got from it is like, there is so much beauty in everything and the amount of privilege that I have to have too small of a place, the privilege that I have to like travel at all or whatever it is. I think like that's kind of what gets me through is the fact that like there really is so much beauty in a lot of my life, knowing that like I have the opportunity to really focus on those things and know that, like, sure, maybe things are hard at the moment, but like I can reach and grab something out of my cabinet and my legs work. My family is healthy. And those things that we just take such for granted because it can be gone in an instant.
Well, I know for me, one of the things I missed doing was being able to stand in front of the mirror and wash my face. And when I was able to, hold on for a sec. When I was able to stand up and do that for the first time, I almost started to cry, right? When I could take my dog for a walk for the first time after my whole experience, I almost cried. Like, there were so many things that were part of my daily routine that I didn't appreciate how special they were until I couldn't do them. And I think that, we in life, we're so focused on the goals, the certificates, the whatever. And then you get them and you're like, okay, now what? And I always say, like, we chase the success. What we should really be doing, honestly, is chasing the failure.
Right.
Because the failure is what you learn from. The failure is what makes you pause. I always love it. It's so rare. But when you find a post on LinkedIn where people are like, you know what, I decided to quit my job, or, oh, I got fired, or, oh, whatever. Because it's not the, oh, I got this award, or, oh, I got this new position. It's like, look, like, I'm showing you that I have a moment of transition or weakness, whatever you want to call it, or challenging time. And there's so much humility that comes from that. And you see from the visceral reaction that people often have is it helps bring out everyone's stuff that they don't necessarily want to celebrate, but we should, because it's from those little moments that we learn so much about ourselves. So I can completely relate to what you said about the before and after in terms of the personality change. The one, because some of my girlfriends were like, oh my God, you've changed so much. I'm like, really? Like, I don't feel any different. But like, they say it's your perspective. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? They're like, you're so much more chill than you used to be. And that's right. I am.
And so much more resilient, like I've had such a year already. Like, we've had so many issues with just hiccups in the business. And then also I got shingles. And then I don't know if you know that my house got hit with a tornado.
No, I did not know that.
This happened this week. So it's a crazy year. And I'm just rolling with the punches. And one of my friends is like, you are genuinely the most resilient person I know. Like, how do I get an ounce of that? And this is what I say to everyone. I don't want this, but I wish everyone could have a near-death experience, because there's just something where it's like, but I'm alive. You know what I mean? The tornado we have minor stuff with the house. Like, it's going to get fixed. It's not even a problem. I got to stay at my sister's. I had community. My business is going to be fine. I'm fine. Everything's the community isn't, right? But I'm genuinely okay. And so it's things where I'm like, the way that I get through is that I'm here. I'm here, it's really as simple as that,
Well, I was out with a very close friend last night, who I hadn't seen in a while. And she had kind of known what I had gone through, but didn't know the whole thing. And, over the course of our 4-hour dinner, I took her through all parts of my saga and then some. And at the end of it, she gave me a hug and she's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, but you're okay, aren't you? And I said, I am. I said, because I'm here, and there is so much power in the simplicity of that statement.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that, So how has your life 2.0 affected you in business? Again, multiple hats, multiple companies, working with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities. How has it empowered you?
I would say I'm leading from a very selfish place, but still trying to do so very selflessly. And the reason why I say that is because every decision is modeled around my freedom. So for instance, we have the agency, right? Where we have a marketing agency, we support people, right? It's great. It's profitable. I have another business that brings in a lot of money and we have no team running it. It's fully automated back-end system with ads that go into the thing and people sign up and it makes money. It makes a lot of great money. And it gives me the freedom that if someone is just not a fit at the marketing agency or disrespects us or needs to go, they go, right? And so I've built my businesses in a way where I feel like I'm getting to live my life on my terms, because if I'm going to be here and have this, what I feel like, to your point, is a second chance, I am not going to be so indebted to someone. I am not going to be so chained to my work that I can't take a trip. I'm not going to be so chained to my work that I can't go spend the day with my nephew on a Tuesday because I feel like it. I'm not going to be so attached to a single outcome that it could break me, right? I've relinquished a lot of that, and I've built ecosystems that allow autonomous sales and I focused on that. I focused on building a system first that allowed sales to come in super effortlessly.
Yep.
So all of the stuff that we wanted to do that felt fun or felt like a risk didn't really hurt us at all. And it's allowed me to have so much fun. It's allowed me to like play and like take on clients and take a risk and invest. And I'm glad that I went about it that way because it's the least sexy way and it's so expensive and time consuming up front. But on the back end, if I genuinely didn't want to work for an entire week, I could take the year off if I wanted to.
Right.
And so for me, like building my business from a smart perspective where autonomy was number one, I think that is kind of like where that comes from, where it's like, I'm going to enjoy my life, period.
Yes. And I think what I love about that is you have your goals and you've been able to design, I should say, your business life around those personal goals rather than being a slave to this company or that company or this client and that client. And I give you credit because a lot of people don't do that. They do the opposite. They develop the business, even if it's their own, they become a slave to it. And they
On
believe.
top of that, I also am not in competition with anyone.
Right.
Like, I am honestly doing this because I'm having a blast, right? Like, I don't need to be the best. If someone comes to me and says, it's between you and that other person, I'm like, oh yeah, great choices. Whoever you choose, I'm not fighting for this. You know what I mean? Like, go to them. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, good for them. People are like, so-and-so is like stealing your thing. Okay, it worked for us.
Like,
go take it. Why do I care? It releases a lot of the like, but, like the stress and the panic. And like, it also relinquishes a lot of the, I need to gain respect. Like, I don't need to gain anything.
Yes.
I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you respect me. I don't care if you admire me. I love what I'm doing. I think what we're doing is sick. My team loves what we're doing. Our clients love what we're doing. And if you don't, you can go. It is an optional thing to participate in anything I'm doing. And so it's really given me, like I said, like a very selfish position that like I'm building this for my joy and my excitement and the way that I want to give back. But all of it is still rooted very selflessly in the sense that like all of this is for women and all of this is in benefit of others. It's not so selfishly that I'm like Jeff Bezos over here, right? By any means.
Right.
But I built a very selfish system in order for us to be very selfless in our giving.
Well, and the great part of that, right, is that perspective is very empowering to other people.
Sure.
And to clients, it's also very attractive because you're like, it's fine if you choose somebody else. And like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a client this week, they pay us multiple 5 figures. And they said, hey, listen, we are going to need to take a step back with tariffs. We need to make sure that we're investing all our money in inventory. We don't know when we're going to be able to pick up marketing again. And I said, you're making the right decision. You have my full support. Doors open the second that you want to come back. We're ready for you.
Yep.
I agree with that choice. And I wouldn't be able to say that if I was like panicked.
No.
And so I led very selfishly at the beginning that I wanted to build operationally from a standpoint that I knew that I could have an autonomous sales system so that we could have moments like that. And so I feel like that's kind of where that stems from, is though this like, I'm not here to like be better than anyone and I'm not here to make the most money and I don't care if you like what we're doing. I want to enjoy it though. That's just no question. There was a client who was on our roster who like anyone listening to this has heard of. And we were like so excited to get this client and she was so rude. And I was like, no, you're fired. Like, I don't care. Like, you're gone. Like, I don't care how respected you are. I don't care if like it would open doors for us. I don't like you. Like, you're done, So it just gives you kind of like, it gives me a cockiness, like that's why we use the business cocky.
But it also gives you a certain level of freedom, humility, whatever word you want to string together. It's basically like you're good. And that, and I think, I talk about this a lot when I do speeches, is like we all get to the point in life where we're good. It's not that you don't care. It's just that you're satisfied. And, there's always someone that's going to position themselves to try to be better than you or more awesome than you or whatever. But the reality is like, if you're good, you're good. You don't care. Like, let everyone else dance around you and try to distract you. But if you're focused like you are and you're confident in your abilities like you are, like the world's your oyster.
Well, and I think that, I'm being very like silly almost around like, you can leave and blah, blah. I think it is that though. I think it's the feeling of safety and security.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of times, especially when you're in your 20s or, when you're starting in entrepreneurship, you have a lack of safety and security where
Yep.
it doesn't feel you don't feel very supported, and you're relying on all these other things to provide you the safety and security, right? And I think going through a very traumatic event, you start to realize how little, one, everything matters, and two, how much you can like really rely on things that maybe don't have your back. Maybe that's people, maybe that's systems, maybe that's
Yep.
jobs. You realize how much you have to be your own safety and security. And so there's this quote that it reminds me of where it's like, the bird in the tree doesn't worry about the branch breaking because its trust is not in the branch, the trust is in its wings.
Mm-hmm.
And that is 100% how I feel, where it's like, the branch can break. Like, I have wings, I can fly. I'm fine.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Someone was like, aren't you worried about like losing your business? And I'm like, no, I'll start another one. Like,
Right.
and then if that one fails, I'll start like, I'm good. That's like something I preach in the Doers all the time, my membership for women, where I'm like, you have to understand that when you learn the mechanics of growing a business, you will not want again. Because if it fails, you start a new one. You know what I mean? Like, you understand the mechanics of it already. And so I feel like there's a major sense of security in the sense that like I am my home.
Yes. And you are also going through what you went through. Because I know I went through the same thing. What you realize is like you could have the best support system in the world, but the only person that's going to help you get better is you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can have people by your bedside, you can have help at home, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the only person that can make you better is you and your own resilience and, and your own wings. And if you want to fly, you'll fly if you let yourself. What I see in business is that, or in life, I should say, there's so many people that make excuses for why they can't do something.
Mhm.
But I feel like after you've been through an NDE, that you realize that it's not about what you can't do, it's about what you can do, because it's that
Right.
can attitude that got you out of the hole that you were in.
Totally.
And it's very liberating.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know personally, like I would not wish what I went through, what you went through on anybody, but I learned a lot from it. And I think and I'm thankful for the gift, not the opportunity to experience the gift, but I'm thankful for the gift. And I think that, if people let themselves fail, and if they let themselves have bad days, and if they let themselves say that they're not great, they're just okay, or they're not even good, there's so much freedom that comes with that, And in our social media filtered society, focus on likes and follow and all this nonsense, it's so easy for people to get stuck. And I think it's so easy for women, especially, to get stuck because they see what the rest of the universe is doing and they feel like they're never going to be as good. So in the work that you're doing with women, which I love, by the way, what's your advice for a woman who's like, either trying to start a company or mid-career and thinking about a pivot, who just feels stuck? Like, what are some ideas you have for self-motivation?
There's two things, and one is very unconventional and maybe harsh, but true. And the other one is maybe more empowering. So I'll start with the more true one. Maybe
Okay.
it's not more true. That might not be the right word. But I do think that I deal with a lot of women that are stuck. A lot of people in the Doers feel stuck and they feel like, how am I going to move forward? Like, what's the right way? How do I do this to feel confident? Sometimes I say to them, stop, just stop, stop trying, feel stuck. You will get so sick of yourself that you will take an action.
Yeah.
If you aren't taking action now, maybe you just need to sit here a little longer. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe there's intuition coming into play. Maybe you don't feel ready enough, right? I always tell people like imposter syndrome got the best branding on the planet because imposter syndrome is not imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, I tell people, imposter syndrome is unpreparedness. So if you feel imposter syndrome, you need to feel more prepared. You're going to an event and you don't know anybody and you've never presented yourself as a founder and you feel imposter syndrome. No, you don't. You feel unprepared. Prepare. What questions are they going to ask me? How do I want to present myself? What do I want to say for them? What do I want to have at the ready? Do I have those things at the ready? What do I need to do to get to that level? And that will take away that imposter syndrome because it doesn't exist. It's unpreparedness, right?
Yeah.
So I would say first and foremost, if you're feeling really stuck, I think that women need to tap into their intuition more. So I also think like maybe stay there for a minute and you will get to the point where you're going to be like, I'm so sick of my excuses. I'm moving. I'm like taking action. And sometimes that's the best time to do it is when you're like, let's go. I can't listen to my my thoughts anymore. On the flip side, if you're stuck and you're like really ready to take action, what I want you to think of first and foremost is to like make a list of all the things you feel like you're expected to do. Because I think that people push people into like try something and just see and like kick off something, like start somewhere. But I think like that's so vague. Like, what's the step to do that, right? So I always encourage women, write a list of things that you feel like you're expected to do or that you're expected not to do. Maybe it's like, well, I can't move because I would like disappoint my mom because she likes being down the street from me. I can't start a creative business because my partner will not take it seriously. I can't, whatever it is, right? So make a list of all the things that you feel like you're not allowed to do or that aren't for you. People from my area don't go into that type of work. Though all of those things. So make that list. Then make a list of like, if you had $1 million and you had all this time, what would feel fun to try? And typically what ends up happening is that you have this list of like, I actually kind of would like to write a book though, right? Or like, how fun would it be if I was able to sell my illustrations? You know, you start to have these like, well, I mean, I guess that could be cool. And then you look at those things that are holding you back, those things that you're not allowed to do. And some of those things like, you don't necessarily have to fix, just the awareness of it is sometimes helpful. But then on the flip side, it's also like, what of that can you let go? Can you let any of it go? Can you say, you know what, I'm going to disappoint you, or I'm going to feel prepared in telling you why I've made this decision? Or how do you get ready for something that you're not allowed to do? How do you manage that? There's just like a level of awareness that I think is super helpful to help you have that push. Where sometimes you just feel like I can't take a step further. But the truth is, it's more like this story isn't helping me move forward. And so just seeing those stories is sometimes the thing that can help people move because they're like, that's what it is that I'm worried about disappointing my parents even though I'm 40 years old. You know what I mean?
No, it is. And again, I think it's that, dream big. And then, how do you put that plan together to make that dream a tangible reality? Because I think that we are all women primarily, but everybody, we're so good at making up the reasons why we can't do something. And, I think for me, my shift that I've developed as a result of what I went through is I can do anything I want. I survived. I survived something that literally, like my survivability rate for my thing was 3%, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I survived something that you're not supposed to survive, and I beat it. And I'm back. And so there's nothing I can't do. And I truly feel that way these days. And if I try and I fail, or it doesn't work out the way that I think, fine, because at least I tried.
Totally. 100%.
Because I always say to people, you only go around once. You can't rewind the tape. You can only go forward, So,
and not to be like super nihilist or, pessimist, but it's like all those things that have happened, to me, to your other guests, I would like to think none of us saw it coming,
Yeah.
So it's like, who knows just what's around the river bend? You know what I mean? Like today could be it. I don't know. You know what I mean? So like, I didn't expect to have a tornado a week ago. Like I didn't expect for that car accident to happen. So there's also like a bit of like, what story do you want to be told? And I would rather be the person who took risks and went for it. And I've always been taught like you will always regret not trying. You can make money back. You can't get time back, and you can't get youth back, and you can't get health back sometimes. So it's like, if you feel an urge to do something, I don't know if you're religious or spiritual, but like, what if that's also been given to you? Like, what if that's like given to you and been placed on you because that's a drive that you have internally and that you're supposed to be activating? And to me, I also want to honor that, right?
Yes.
And if I have a desire and an urge to kind of consider something, then like, I'm not so beholden to my route that I won't consider something different, because like, what if that's been like divinely given to me? You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh no, I totally know what you mean. And I think that's a great kind of, I don't know, rule to live by or way of viewing it all. I appreciate that. Well, Ashli, thank you. This has been a fantastic, insightful, and most importantly, fun conversation. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a lot going on. And just thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for offering such great insights for all the listeners. And I hope to have you back on during the second season.
I would love to come back on. Thank you so much for having me, Kathryn.
Absolute pleasure. All right, everybody. Have a good day. And thank you again for listening to Gut Punch. Bye-bye.
That's it for today's episode of Gut Punch. I hope you found inspiration, because no matter how hard life hits, there's always a way forward. Make sure to follow or subscribe to Gut Punch on your favorite podcast platform. If you know someone who could use a little inspiration, share this episode with them. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay strong. See you in the next episode.